Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Andrew Rocco. I'm the manager of educational content here at Tradestation. And today's webinar is titled Crypto Collectibles and Beyond, and it's going to be presented by Gianni, our special blockchain contributor here. Before we jump into things, I want everyone to please take a look at our disclosure. Please remember that this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. If you'd like a little bit more information on that, feel free to visit youcantrade.com and you can find the disclosure information there. And I do encourage everyone who's looking to step up their trading to go ahead and visit youcantrade.com. We have a bunch of different channels, coaches, mentorship, trade ideas. So I definitely encourage all of our viewers to check out youcantrade.com. And again, the title of our webinar is Crypto Collectibles and Beyond. And I think that this is a super important and interesting topic that Gianni will cover today. The world's moving digital, as we all know, right before our eyes, and I don't think that's stopping anytime soon. So the topics discussed are a bit difficult to understand, but I can't think of anyone better than Gianni to explain these topics. Gianni helps us with a lot of our crypto content, and he also has a deep understanding of these topics. So I'll turn it over to Gianni right now.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen real quick here. And for Andrew, if you can give me a thumbs up or something, so you can let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, you're looking good, Gianni.
Awesome. All right, let me get my chat up too, in case people have questions. I will definitely be answering questions towards the end. So just real quick, my name is Gianni Dalerta. I am from Miami, born and raised. I've been doing marketing and branding for 20 years. I was an early employee of Alienware. I've worked at agencies and have had my own agency, as well as I have been fortunate enough to have been involved with cryptocurrency since 2013, and was lucky enough to be at the house the night before Ethereum was launched here in Miami with all the team from Ethereum. Which was very exciting. I knew that I was seeing history unfold before my eyes, and we became connected with their whole team throughout that year and following years afterwards. In 2017, I also went to work for Anthony D'Alerta, which was one of the founders of Ethereum, for his multi-cryptocurrency wallet, which was the first one, which was called Jax. And then after that, in 2020 and whatnot, just been really adamant about following the aspects of NFTs. The last little bit, I created a list that I've been compiling since 2017 or 2018 about all the amazing projects that are happening in NFT space, which is called an awesome Git list. And if you look my name up, you can find it. But basically, the first question everybody asks, what is an NFT? And what does it stand for? For NFT stands for non-fungible token. And to understand what a non-fungible token, you got to understand what a fungible token. And so let's start there, because ultimately it's a question that you kind of have to need to know the both parts. So a fungible token or a fungible item are things like cryptocurrencies or building supplies or things, one of many, right? If I have a dollar bill and I go spend that dollar bill at a store, everybody will accept that dollar bill at face value. Most likely, if I go anywhere in the world, they'll take that US dollar and accept it for value. The difference between a fungible and non-fungible is a non-fungible is like a one of one, right? A painting is a one of one. A collectible card is a one of one, or some form of digital asset that is one of one, that's unique. And I'll give you a little bit of history here about how this occurred. Is when Ethereum, which is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, added the ability to create programmatic software on its blockchain, they were able to allow developers to build special functionality to do really interesting things. One of those things was create fungible tokens. And that's why we have a bunch of tokens that ride on top of the Ethereum platform, one of many, or non-fungibles. And the way that they define that is that they create a standard, and I'll go into the next slide, I'll talk to you about the standards, but it's a standard that all the wallet operators, all the browsers, all these different people would be able to understand. In particular, the first one that really got notoriety was this Cryptokitties one, which was a game. They created these non-fungible tokens. They're considered the idea of generative art, because each non-fungible token had a bit of code or content in it that had almost like a DNA strand, and each little piece of that DNA strand would dictate if the eyes of the cat were blue or it had a special feature that is rare compared to others. And so a game came out of that. People could breed their cats or sire their cats to create new cats. And it was quite interesting. It almost took the Ethereum network down when that launched. Another example, obviously a painting is a good example of non-fungible, and then Top Shots. And I do believe that Top Shots really blew the market up, because in October they launched it. They showed that they had a partnership with the NBA, and with their platform, they were able to sell these non-fungible tokens for normal currencies using credit card or whatnot. And that built a lot of excitement around the space. So I'll jump to my next slide. And so I talked about the blockchains. You have Bitcoin and you have some other cryptocurrencies that don't have the programmatic layer, like let's say Doge. Many people have been hearing Doge in the news, but those don't have the ability to add these smart contracts. The ones I've listed here are some of the ones that have borrowed or have implemented smart contract technology that Ethereum kind of started and innovated on. We have also Wax, and Wax was one that started early on for gaming, digital collectibles. I believe the MLB launched their trading card game on there. And so there's a lot of game-based or collectible-based types of things going on Wax. Top Shots was built on Flow, and Flow was built by the same people who built those Cryptokitties that I mentioned before. It's a different blockchain. They have their own token, but they also have their own smart contract layer. It actually works different than pretty much all the other smart contract layers that are out there right now. But that's a little bit too technical to go into that conversation, but it's very fast, it's very cheap. And right now they're onboarding certain applications to use their thing, and eventually there'll be a lot more. But Top Shots is built on that one. And then the fourth one, just as an example, there's another layer called layer 2, which is similar to Ethereum, but much cheaper, much faster. We know that Ethereum cost is quite high to transact on it. So things like Polygon Matic are kind of like Ethereum, but they are their own, kind of almost like their own chain that uses Ethereum for some of the security. But you may be asking why, why is it a non-fungible? Why is it a fungible? Well, these programmers basically created a standard so that the wallets, the browsers, and the way that you see them are all, they all know how to interpret what they're reading, this code that they're reading, so they can see it, so that one wallet or the other wallet could be able to understand it. So we use standards every day. Every time you go to a website, you're going to go see a standard like HTML, and every browser is going to understand how to render that code to build a website. The fact that we're having this conversation through Zoom also is the same idea. We're using voice over IP or a standard called WebRTC, so that your computer and your browser and mine over here are able to interact, and we can show this video, right? So I'm going to jump around from some slides. What gives NFTs their value, right? That's a loaded question, because in particular, I can create an NFT of anything. I could take a screenshot of this screen right now and create an NFT, but would anybody in this call buy it, right? What's the value of buying it? So I do believe that what gives some NFTs value is their intellectual property. Now that's a loaded question as well within NFTs. So let me explain. The fact that the NBA, for example, teamed up with Dapper Labs to build this NBA Top Shot product, right? they basically provided or created terms within their intellectual property to allow these assets to be rendered as NFTs so that people can own them and people can trade them and do different things, right? But they're ultimately the owners of these things, and they're the owners of the images that are seen within these objects. They also have an aspect of rarity, right? Because the fact that the NFT was rendered by the NBA Top Shots, they might have rendered or minted a limited set of LeBron James dunks, right? It could be 5, it could be 100, it could be an open series that they keep generating. And obviously anything that's rare potentially should have a higher value if people are interested in buying that. Just like the normal collectibles, you know, Honus Wagner is a very rare baseball card, and you know, which I'm not sure if I picked that right. No, that's not Honus Wagner, but it's a you know, an old baseball card that has value because there are people who collect them. They provide value. They believe that because it's rare, it's something that they should own. Pieces of art have value, right? Who was the painter? Was it a Picasso? Was it a Van Gogh? Are there people that are willing to collect that and pay money for that one item, right? So those are different ways that NFTs have value right now, but there are going to be new ways that NFTs have value, and I'll talk about that in a little bit later. And actually right now. So the ways that companies build value for their NFTs. I mentioned the ability for the NBA Top Shots to build value because of their brand, because of the collection of images and video and intellectual property that they can mint or create as part of their NFTs. But another way that the NBA Top Shots, as an example, could build value, more value, is by you owning a collection of certain NFTs, like all LeBron James for a certain time period. They could do something where you redeem a special card just for having those 5 cards, right? So that might affect the value because people are wanting to purchase that so they can get this unique card. Another way they build value is by creating new utility, right? And so a new utility that could be used for non-fungible tokens in the case of Top Shots is maybe fantasy sports, right? So you have to purchase a particular player to put them in a roster. And then there may be some software, which is out there, where on Sunday you lock in your roster, the game plays out during the week, scores are tabulated, and those that had the fantasy sport team that got the most points wins. And that can be all done in a decentralized way on the blockchain and build value for the asset, for the thing that people are collecting. They could also use NFTs for a potential use case where if you own one of those NBA Top Shots, maybe they grant you access to all future NBA games. So, you know, you could prove that you have that NBA Top Shot and then be given access to that stadium, to that special event, to that VIP thing, right? Another question is, where do I get these non-fungible tokens? In particular to NBA Top Shots, they have a controlled marketplace, and which is the only place right now where you can purchase them. But eventually there will be other marketplaces that get created so that you can probably sell them outside of their marketplace. But in the broader sense of the non-fungible token ecosystem, there are markets that have been created. Specifically, these are some of the ones that are the most prominent. OpenSea and Rarible are places where people can go and upload an image, upload a video, a 3D file, and mint an NFT by giving it a title and description, potentially giving it a price, and putting it in an open marketplace where someone can purchase it, right? So by someone purchasing these assets, you know, I mint the piece, I put it for sale in the marketplace as if it was an eBay or an Amazon, and then someone comes around if they're interested, or I built enough value for my NFT and somebody would go and purchase it. These other two, Super Rare and Foundation, which is the one on the bottom right, these are kind of like invite only or more curated type marketplaces for art and whatnot, where they only allow certain people so that they believe that it has higher quality or higher skill or has more marketability or more value. Those are the ways that they do it. Now, as I was mentioning before, these NFTs, they're smart contracts, they're programmatic. There could be a lot of interesting things that you can build into these marketplaces that would otherwise not be able to be done, right? And one of those ideas is the aspect of royalties. So royalties, when you do OpenSea or Wearable, you can mint your NFT and put a percentage, let's say 10% for secondary sale. So when I sell that NFT, if the person that owns it goes and resells it afterwards, I will always, as the creator of that NFT, get that 10%. However, only if they're using one of these platforms that respects the standard of royalties. So just to go back a little bit, an NFT is like an object. If I had a chair, the chair doesn't know its value. The only way it knows its value is if I put it in the marketplace like eBay or Amazon, where I set a price or somebody offers me some money for it, and then that happens. But again, these new marketplaces have the ability to continue having royalties or future monies going down to the creators and whatnot. I've even seen some platforms, there's one called cargo.build that even allows you to split up the sale of that NFT into different parties. So if I collaborated with a different artist or another creator, maybe a different creator or whatnot, then I could potentially split that revenue directly into their wallets, into their cryptocurrency wallets, and do those things. So somebody's asking here, and I'm just going to pick these questions up because in case I don't go to the end and maybe it's out of context, is Dennis wrote, you said NFTs are a form of smart contract. Isn't using smart contracts an idea unto itself? Then why can't smart contracts simply run on the internet instead of the blockchain? That's a fantastic question. So I had made an assumption that most of you understood what blockchains were, but a blockchain in particular is an immutable ledger, right? It's like a spreadsheet. It's like, it's a database basically that everybody has the exact same copy of that spreadsheet. And whenever anything is going to happen on the blockchain, before I accept the transaction, I'm going to go out to the network and say, does Gianni have that currency? Does Gianni have that non-fungible? Or in this case, Dennis, does he have that non-fungible? And I'm going to ask a couple of different nodes and they're going to say yes. And then I'm going to accept it. And I'm going to write to that ledger that now I am the owner of that non-fungible. So when he's asking, aren't the smart contracts an idea unto themselves? Why can't smart contracts simply run on the internet instead of the blockchain? Because a smart contract itself is immutable, right? So when I mint an NFT, I'm actually minting a smart contract. And that smart contract does not allow there to be more than that one. I cannot go in there again because of that standard and generate more of that particular smart contract. It's like a serial number. And I like to use the example of the dollar again. And this is really an interesting example. If I have a dollar bill, I can go to a store and use it to buy groceries or whatever. But that dollar bill itself is both fungible and non-fungible because it has a serial number. It's unique. It could be traced back. There is some provenance where that dollar probably was in that bank account or in this thing. Nobody does that. Nobody tracks it. But the actual dollar itself is unique. And so when we talk about the blockchain, every time I make a transaction, there is a provenance. I created the NFT. I wrote it into this blockchain ledger. Now it says Gianni created this NFT. And then now I send it to Dennis. And then now it shows a transfer from Gianni's account to Dennis's account. So there's a provenance of who owned it, who created it, and that within the internet cannot be done right now. It is not a blockchain. That provenance or those stages of transfer would not be able to be, it wouldn't be able to be immutable because I could go and edit a database. I can go and make a modification to it, or a hacker can go and do that, but you cannot do that on the blockchain, on certain blockchains. I hope that answered your question, Dennis. And it was a great question. And I really do urge those that are more interested in the mechanics. We're getting to a point right now where people may not really you're taking it at face value that it has value, right? You get in your car and you realize that the car, you don't need to understand how the motor works. You get in the car and you press the pedal and it goes. And some people are thinking those things with NFTs, but it's a good exercise to try to get a little bit more insight as to how a blockchain works and whatnot. Let's see if there's any other questions. Make sure that I'm not missing. I like this one. I would pay crypto, fiat, or precious metals to make LeBron James go away. Oh, I don't know if I should have repeated that one, but I got it. Anyways, I thought it was about buying a LeBron James. I didn't realize the last bit of it. Maybe I shouldn't have read that one. Anyways, so great place for you guys and gals, if you're interested in understanding some of the prices, right? And some of the, because most of the people that are listening to this are traders or into the financial aspect of things. These things do have market. These things do have value, and people are willing to trade them and collect them. This is a website called CryptoSlam, and you can basically see all the top kind of like projects. I like to call them projects, like CryptoPunks, NBA Top Shots. Like these are all different, like Tops MLB. You can see their symbols, what they're on. This is Ethereum, this is Flow, this is Wax. You can see the amount of sales they've had within 24 hours. And here you can see these both are teetering between the $1 and $2 million in sales. You can see that there has been a change within 24 hours. I'm not sure why. Maybe something's going on. And think about that. Only 17 buyers within this time frame are exchanging $2 million worth, which is pretty crazy. Only 20 transactions. But you can see that NBA Top Shots has a lot more transactions, and you can see the large sales of these CryptoPunks. Funny enough, CryptoPunks were actually the first NFTs. They were not, I don't believe they were created on Ethereum. They were created before, and then somehow stopped from use, basically, from the other platform they were on and put onto Ethereum, I believe. Let me see if I have any other slides. No, I don't have any other slides. So there are many interesting things happening with NFTs and stuff that you guys should be watching. There is a lot of talk about decentralized finance, things and different platforms that are out there. One interesting use case that I've seen with NFTs that right now is a little bit on the bleeding edge and may have some issues with regulation down the line, but there's this really interesting use case where, as you notice, these CryptoPunks are selling for quite a bit of money, 500,000 or whatnot. So you would have to have $500,000 worth of Ethereum to buy, a subset of these CryptoPunks. So what some ingenious people have done with smart contracts is that they've created these vaults where creators or holders of these CryptoPunks, in this case CryptoPunks, could send it to a vault. And the vault creates a new token, maybe 100 CryptoPunk tokens, and basically fractionalize the ownership of those CryptoPunks. So they could have like 100, 200 of these CryptoPunks in a vault. Everybody that put them in there got a token, and then those tokens could be traded, and people could own a fraction of that collection and have some exposure, almost like an index fund, but of NFTs. Now, again, word of warning, like I was mentioned at the beginning, this is not trading advice. Some of these things, there's warnings that they could be securities or whatnot, so just be vigilant of what you're doing. But you should be cognizant that there's some really interesting things happening with this as well. Another two examples that I like to provide of what a non-fungible is the title of your house, for example, could be considered a non-fungible. There's a specific longitude and latitude. There's a specific, description, and it has a provenance, right? At some point within your state, they said this plot of land, here's the deed of that land, and you have a title that you can trace who was the owner of it, and that's what gives that place value because you can do all that stuff. In the future, I do believe maybe there would be potentially NFTs acting as these titles. It would make it so much more efficient because only one person could own that title at any given point. And when you go sell your home, you could transfer over that NFT, and now that other person has it and may remove title insurance, may remove some of these other hassles in sales. You know, it maybe even allow the title to be online somewhere in a similar marketplace, and you're just buying the title. You know, so those are really interesting use cases for that happening. And then another use case that I've been investigating more recently, there are two entities that are actually spinning up businesses on the blockchain. It's very experimental. It's very interesting. But one of them, once they spin up this entity through Delaware, through Wyoming, actually mint an NFT of the operating agreement, and that gets kind of put into stone, right? Like that's immutable. If you needed to make a change, you probably create a new one with a new operating manual, another NFT, but you have like kind of a precedent of the first one and the next one, and that's all immutable and in the record books. So, those are, you know, that's pretty much a little bit of the presentation as far as, you know, what an NFT is, how do they get their value, ways that people can build value, some of the use cases that you can come up with. I'm trying to think if there's something else I'd like to share with you. Yes, there's one more thing. And this is a little bit more technical, but NFTs, when they're created, they basically reference an image or a video file or something on a database as well. And as Dennis was asking, why can I do that on the internet? And yes, you can actually post that image on the internet and reference it just like an image in a website references some databases says, okay, show a picture of Gianni on this website. But what happens is if that's on a server and that server goes down or somebody stops to pay for it, then that image is gone. And so potentially that NFT's real value, which is that image, is now unable to be seen. So a lot of these NFT platforms have adapted this technology called IPFS, which basically puts the image or the video onto a bigger platform that is shared almost in a decentralized way with the world. So as long as somebody's kind of utilizing that image will be basically permanent and not be able to be removed. Andrew, I don't know if you're still there, but maybe just to kind of spur on some questions, maybe you have some questions that you may want to ask, or if anybody in the audience has some questions in particular to NFTs, I would love to answer them, and you can use the chat to ask those questions. All right. So maybe what I can do is showcase some NBA Top Shots. And I'll share my screen here. And that way you guys can see an actual example of NBA's Top Shots. So this is my collection of NBA Top Shots. Unfortunately, let me open the chat real quick in case anything comes up. All right. Here's a LeBron James. All these have a serial number and they have a history of sales. No history of sales on mine, but there are 50 available for purchase. Here you can see this one's being sold. Lowest ask is 13,000 and the top sale was 110,000. And with that being said, the interesting thing about non-fungible tokens, because they're on the blockchain, this is acting almost like a browser kind of peering in to the non-fungibles that I own basically. And so if you come to Moment Ranks, you can basically see that people's collections. So this particular individual owns a whopping $50 million worth of Top Shots, about 9,000 Top Shots. This is an individual that is quite famous in his collection. And basically this system is a tool that was used to show value of people's collections. This is without the permission basically of NBA Top Shots. Because these assets are on the blockchain, this programmer was able to query the blockchain, be able to find those assets, and start creating data and useful tools for those people. When I mentioned other uses, this is a fantasy sports idea that you basically put your NBA Top Shots into a collection and of 5 players with specific traits. And then on Sunday, they lock it in. And then during the week, the game plays and points are scored and someone wins. In this particular user, this is the one that won. And I'll show you another sports related one that's quite interesting. This is an artist, a graffiti artist that was commissioned, where they took a piece of the NBA stadium, the flooring, the deck, and they cut out a piece. I guess it's maybe a place that was being decommissioned, and like spots, for example, where Kobe would do his shots or something more often. They took that piece and they commissioned a bunch of graffiti artists to do designs on these pieces, and they were going to sell these pieces as well as provide the NFT that goes with it, almost like a certificate of authenticity, but you also get the NFT, and that's very unique and rare. All right, we got some questions coming in. I'm just going to read them out. Hopefully I don't get in trouble like the last one. Can you create an NFT for a collectible that may have more than one piece? For example, I have a large Beanie Baby collection. Can I create an NFT of a rare plushie, even though there are others that may be out there? In this particular case, I'm not going to talk about the Beanie Baby in particular, but yes, if I created an original piece of art, like let's say this thing that you're seeing that's being built on screen, I could do a series. I could do 1 of 5 or 1 of 10 or 1 of 100 or 1 of 1. I could do that in some of these platforms. Specifically, Rarible allows you to do that. Now, as it relates to Beanie Baby, you have to be a little bit careful because still things do have their intellectual property. And so Beanie Baby probably still has the intellectual property of their image. Most likely, maybe if you take a picture of your Beanie Baby in an interesting environment, that is completely yours, but you may not be able to kind of like sell. Well, let me redact that. You could sell it, but you may not be legally allowed to sell something that has their logo, for example. So that's something to consider. And so can I create a rare plush even though others may be out there? I would say with that question, I would probably prefer to answer it in such a way where you created a unique plush that nobody else has. You take and you're the creator of that plush doll, and then you minted that NFT, and that NFT gets put into a marketplace, and you create an audience, and somebody wants to buy it. That's perfectly fine, and I think that would be quite interesting. All right, let me see here. Another question. Normally with collectibles, the price can go up and down. With an NFT price so high, does it seem like it would be left holding the bag if the masses do not adopt this technology or as they hope, or something better comes about? That's a fantastic question. It's something I talk about a lot. When I purchased $110 worth of those NBA Top Shots in October, right when it started. And the value of that collection went up to $70,000 in January, and then subsequently dropped to $23,000. And it may keep dropping again. I'm not sure. It could be the platform made it easier for people to sell. Maybe they made it more difficult. You know, all those different things are going to dictate what the price would be. But remember, this is very new technology. This is very early. And so we may, those just like any market, it's going to come up and down. And if you had like a famous celebrity or influencer kind of say something about NBA Top Shots, the value of that may pop up, you know, because there's a retail group that's like, you know, doing something on sentiment. But yes, somebody may be holding the bag. Just like if I bought a piece of art thinking that it would go up in value, if there's no other buyer, I'm probably going to be holding the bag. I'll give you another thing to consider, right? I find NFTs to be something of like a medium. Just like if it was a painting, I'm painting on a canvas or a piece of paper or a piece of wood, or I have a rock and I'm going to chisel it away and make a beautiful sculpture. I find it to be another medium. There's hundreds of rocks. There's hundreds of canvases. There are hundreds of artists. There's hundreds of photographers, but only few of those groups are able to make a living or to sell their work. This particular technology will give some people, especially digital artists and whatnot, a means to sell their work where they did not have that means before. And so this is like a very fantastic innovation. But I could tell you at some point, Instagram, as I'm showing you right now, may just mint this video as an NFT, and could purchase it right from Instagram. So there might be thousands and millions of NFTs that are getting built. Right now it's cost prohibitive, but we can definitely see it. So that's a great question, Tom. I'm a little slow. What do you own when you purchase an NBA Top Shot? So that's a loaded question. Technically speaking, as I was mentioning before, you are just owning a bit of code that references an image, right? Or a video or whatnot. But that is rare, right? That is, it's a one of one that someone owns, that someone created, and there can never be that again. That one in particular, there's no other one. So it's a unique asset. I like to use sometimes the conversation of like our young people who play video games. I have a 16-year-old boy who plays a lot of Fortnite and other games, and he's constantly trying to get these skins. Now, what value does that have? He may not be paying money for them, but he's spending a lot of time to try to unlock that skin and potentially even sell them. I know he does it in Roblox, right? And so what am I owning there? You're owning if you go the basic level, you're owning an entry in a database, right? But what do we all own? We own dollars, and they're an entry in a database in our bank, right? It's not even the physical dollar anymore. It's a digital representation of that dollar that resides in the bank. The difference here is that it's an immutable ledger. It's something where that one of one or that one of many, there is no more. And unless that particular wallet or that particular entity were to create another one, you can verify that contract or that smart contract cannot mint another one of those, or that it is a unique digital asset. But it's a great question, and it's one that one needs to really contemplate. What am I purchasing when I get an NFT? I'll give you another example of why there's a value in owning one. So if I own an NBA Top Shot NFT, maybe at some point they come up with a game where I can actually use my players within the game, and they control the ability to use those players because they're saying you can only use this if you have an NBA Top Shot, right? You can use this in this game, but I could also create a game for myself that uses those same cards. Now, that's where it starts getting a little bit tricky with intellectual property. Will they allow that or not? I'm not sure, but I do think that they'll allow some of that kind of interoperability. I'm not sure. That was a little cryptic, Tom. I'm sorry if I wasn't so clear, but the reality is that you're basically owning an entry in a database that is unique, and only you are owning that entry in that database. Doesn't sound very sexy or very exciting, but that's what it is. Yes, there's actually NFTs for soccer. I think there's one called So Rare. It's on Ethereum, I believe, and those are also becoming quite valuable. And they're becoming quite valuable. And if we talk about value, there's an aspect here of fear of missing out. There's an aspect here of sentiment, feeling that maybe these things will go up in value. But just like with anything, there's a market, and if there's people that are collecting it and interacting with them, that price should sustain. If they create new value for the use of holding these NFTs, the value should sustain or increase or decrease, whatnot. But like with anything, any object that you own, the value is determined on the market, and how it goes. Are there any other questions? I think we have another like 6 minutes. If anybody has any other questions they may have. All right. Andrew or my counterpart, do you have any questions, Andrew?
No, that was fantastic, Gianni. Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Yep.
Again, fantastic presentation, Gianni. Thank you very much. I know that cleared things up for me. Gianni has a wealth of knowledge in crypto, so we do hope to have him on the webinars more often. And again, regardless of whether you're trading crypto or NFTs, I do think it's worth getting to know these core concepts as they inevitably grow in popularity and use. So that was super helpful. I want to remind our viewers to check out youcantrade.com. Again, if you're looking to step up your trading, we do have all asset classes, crypto, futures, options. So definitely check that out. We have a ton of channels there. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. The recording will be back up on YouTube. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward for future ones.
Thanks, Gianni.